Well, hello. Welcome to another Tech Tips 411 session. I am super excited for you to be here. This is the last of the 10 session series that I've been doing, Jen's 10 Ideas. So thanks so much for tuning in for our last session of this series. So today we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite things, Bitmoji. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my ideas for using Bitmoji in this series. So I'm going to share my 10 favorite ways to use Bitmoji and maybe a couple of bonus tips there as well. So thanks so much for tuning in. If you're here watching live, please go ahead and drop your name in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in live from. If you're watching this in the future, thanks so much for your time. So let's go ahead and dive into Jen's 10 ideas for using Bitmoji. For those of you that just might have stumbled across this video and this is the first time you've seen me, my name is Jennifer Hall and I'm an educational technology specialist with Atlanta Public Schools. And what that means is that I provide technology training for teachers and plan with them to effectively integrate technology in their standards-based lessons. And I love it. Shannon's like, Bitmoji. Yes, my favorite thing. Look at this. We got folks tuning in from all over. Hey, Catherine, all the way from Dallas, Texas. Awesome. Texas representing. Good to see you, Mariana. Very good. Very cool. More folks tuning in. This is awesome. Got California in the house. See, all I had to do was say Bitmoji and I got people showing up. This is fantastic. All right. So let's dive in with our ideas. So these sessions right here are pretty straightforward, very simple. I'm going to give you 10 ideas and a couple of bonus tips. And so they're kind of flash, quick and sessions. Love it. I've been waiting to see this since Classy Graphics and Creations. Awesome. So this is just my 10 ideas series. This is not my deep dive into my ideas for using Bitmoji. I've got that. I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out. The deeper dive on some leveling up with your Bitmoji. But here we go. Idea number one. I'd be remiss if I did not mention the virtual classroom. Everybody has been how many of you have created your Bitmoji classrooms? Or a Bitmoji office? In my case, I've created a virtual office space. I'm going to show you guys my virtual office space here. It's pretty cool. And so drop yes or no in the chat if you've created a Bitmoji classroom. I've been working with a lot of teachers on getting theirs ready as we get ready for distance learning here in Atlanta. And I even had the opportunity to talk to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. One of the reporters interviewed me about a Bitmoji story, talking about how teachers are using it to engage their learners. So I created this. Since I don't have a classroom, I made this nifty little virtual training room. And so my training room allows participants to go in and click around and access resources here. And so you can just click through. So instead of me having a classroom, I've got my training lab. You can get resources for Google. You can get resources for Microsoft. You can find my app. You can get my YouTube channel. All sorts of stuff is available in here. And actually on my board, if you click through those are actual lessons and resources for those type of projects. So I'm going to put the link to my virtual training room in the video so you can check it out. But that's idea number one, is creating a virtual classroom or office. I've got some of my media specialists created their virtual libraries. I had counselors create virtual counselor spaces so that students knew that this was a safe space that they could come to. So many teachers creating things, not just content teachers. I did a presentation just for the fine arts department in APS, and so many of the teachers, music, math, art, band, were creating that virtual space so that they have that as a way to introduce themselves to their students. So that's idea number one. All right. Awesome. So exciting to see so many folks have already created their virtual classrooms. All right. So let's take a look at idea number two. Idea number two, this is the way I use my Genmoji all the time. For those of you that don't know, she's not a Bitmoji. She's Genmoji. She leads a very exciting life. She's out there doing things. She's ageless and timeless. No wrinkles, no gray hair. I use her for social media logos and stickers. So you mentioned the Classy Graphics Creations class that I took with Tony Benson. It is a fantastic class. Definitely check it out. I learned so many cool tips from him. But I actually created this right here, was one of my assignments, to create a logo. So I created a sticker. So when I get back in the real world, I have these awesome Genmoji stickers to give out. I also use it to create announcements, like my virtual PD series that I did over the summer. I created my logo, and of course, for me, my online presence, usually you're gonna see Genmoji before you see this mug right here. And so I use it also just for any kind of social media piece if I want to share out I'm using Genmoji. So that's idea number 2. So anytime you're doing stuff on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you can use your Bitmoji for that. All right, idea number 3 is headers for your Google Classroom. First of all, creating a custom header makes it more personal, and actually having your Bitmoji in there makes it even more personal, because then students, when they see that header in their dashboard of all the classes they're taking, especially since they're getting to know you, and they might not remember your name and your class and all of that, it's like, oh wait, there's Miss Hall. Look, there we go. So I definitely would recommend using your Bitmoji in a Google Classroom header. Couple of tips. I've got 2 templates, one that's in Google Drawings, the other that's in Google Slides. Those links will be in there. They're the right sizes. You just go in and change them out. If you're in APS and you work at one of my schools and you're tuning in right now, it actually already has logos in it, and you can just swap out and put yours in there. In addition to that, if you're a Canva user, and if you're not, you should check out the session I did yesterday, was 10 ideas for Canva. They have a setting in there for you to create a Google Classroom header exactly the right size that you need, and you can create a really cool header using your Bitmoji. All right, idea number 4. Just kind of cross branding, making sure that like your students are comfortable with you. They're getting to know you in a virtual space. I use Genmoji stars in all of my headers for Wakelet or Flipgrid. So if you're a Wakelet or Flipgrid user, you can make custom headers, and adding your Bitmoji to that is going to then personalize those collections or those topics that you share with your students. So I do have a template for Flipgrid. I need to add one for Wakelet. I'm going to add that soon. So that'll be on my templates page, but you can create those headers. And again, as students are engaging in either answering that Flipgrid topic, it's just a reminder. It personalizes it. And also on your Wakelet collection, it helps with students knowing, okay, I'm working on this for this class, and they're getting to know you as their teacher. So that's idea number 4, is to add your Bitmoji to your Wakelet and Flipgrid headers. All right. Next up, for those of you that subscribe to my Tech Tips 411, you know that I love to use my Genmoji in my newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, the link is in the description of this video. Please go ahead and subscribe. That comes out every Tuesday, 2:45 Eastern time, with some tips. And as you can see, I use Genmoji in all things. So for every tip I give, and there's always a EdTech tip, there's a Chrome extension, there's a resource in Jen's Fave. So like I can revisit one of my favorite tools or anything that's been updated. You can, you'll see that I've got a Genmoji for each one, and you can do all sorts of customizing. And if you want to level up with yours, I've got like a how to do some fun things like face swapping and cropping and splicing together. That's in my advanced Bitmoji session. So I always add it to newsletters. So it's a great way for you sending out newsletters to your students, whatever format you choose to use. So you could use slides, you could use drawings, you could use Wakelet, you could use Canva, any of those, but add that Bitmoji, and it just personalizes that content right there. So I would definitely recommend using your Bitmoji in a newsletter. All right. This is probably one of my most favorite ways to use Genmoji, and that is in infographics, to create that visual cue for students. And so I created this online class etiquette one, and I was able to find the perfect Bitmoji for each of those expectations, using headphones and presenting yourself online, being on time, things like that. And so if you were to create something like that for your guidelines, your rules, your expectations for your class, with your Bitmoji, that's just going to personalize it for your students. In addition to that, I did this other one here that's a virtual field trips, and just the Bitmojis kind of just jazzed it up. Instead of it just being hyperlinks to different resources, I was able to put Bitmojis that went along with what each one of those categories was about. So using your Bitmoji in infographics for rules and expectations is really good, especially if you have younger learners. That visual cue for what that expectation is, what that rule is. And if you've got language learners, that helps as well. So I've seen a lot of teachers with their Zoom expectations or their Meet expectations, they've created that using their Bitmoji. So that is idea number 6. All right, how are we feeling? Are we getting some good ideas? Drop in the chat which idea you're already using, or that you're like, oh, I never thought about that, and I'm excited to try that. All right, idea number 7, and this is a printable one, and I don't print a lot of things, because as a tech person and I support multiple schools, I don't print a lot of stuff because I'm running back and forth to schools. And now that I'm working out of a little Tech Tips 411 studio here at home, don't need to print anything. But when we get back in the real world, or those of you that might be hybrid and actually are physically with your students, another great way to use your Bitmoji is to create these printables. And so this is actually something I see here that Catherine loves the infographic idea. Yes, jazz your rules, your expectations, anything that you want. Definitely do that. Marsha's like, yes, loving the infographic idea. Please, yes, definitely jazz those designs up with your look at that there. Catherine says, you see my classy creation. So this was one of our assignments. Again, definitely check out, if you're not familiar with Tony Vincent, learninginhand.com. He's got amazing classes. I've taken all 3 of them, and every time I learn things. But this was one of our assignments, was to create something printable. And I was like, ooh, what am I going to print? So this is a trifold table topper that I can use when I go to conferences. So I can't wait to get back into the real world. And I can actually set this down on a table, and each side has different information. So side 1 has getting the 411, that you scan that one QR code. It lets you go to sign up for the 411, my newsletter. This is to my website, and this is to my mobile app. So that's a trifold. And I actually, when I was in a conference, was able to set that out on the table. People could come up and scan it and get that information. When you get back to the real world with your students, that would be great for centers and expectations, or ways for students to get to resources very quickly. So if you want to put that out, like, if you're doing a particular unit of study and you have some go-to resources that students can use, you could have that as a table topper, just jazzing it up with your Bitmoji, just kind of like, hey, there's me reminding you, you can scan right here and get some more information. Or depending on what the topic is, you could use a Bitmoji that works for that topic. So definitely using it for printables. I've seen lots of people do vinyl cutouts of their Bitmojis, and they've seen those all. I've seen them on doors and windows and all over the place, which is really, really cool. All right, idea number 8. So with idea number 8, I like to design different headers for all of my platforms in terms of my website. So if you've got a Google site that you're using, or you've got a Weebly site. So I do it for headers and banners, but also for Twitter, YouTube, and web, and anything you want. I've got this. So this actually is my current studio. Ganella says, you like the table topper? Great idea, right? And what's nice is for those table toppers, I didn't staple them together so that I could actually fold them up and tuck them away if I didn't need them. So they could be pulled out as needed, or for me, travel wise. So depending on what you create, those table toppers, they could be laminated and then also reused depending on your what you're working on with your students. So this right here is actually the studio I'm sitting in right now. I recreated it. And so I'm talking to you right here, and this is my computer screen. So this is my digital representation of my studio, and that lives on all of my social media, my website, anything like that. It's just kind of a uniform look, and it kind of gives that, you kind of get to know Jen in the studio. So designing those kind of banners for your website, YouTube, things like that. A lot of teachers are creating YouTube channels right now because they're housing their lessons that they want students to be able to go back to. So you might just want to have that common design look across all of your platforms. All right. Idea number 9, and this is probably one of my favorites as well, is to do this. And my friend from Classy Creations will recognize this. We also had an assignment to do a design, and this is a cartoon I created. This is just a couple of the scenes. It's actually an 8-panel scene, and this is created in Google Slides. But you could create a cartoon to explain concepts for your students. And it's just kind of a great teaching tool. What I did was I created a cartoon about what my role is as an ed tech specialist, so that teachers would know, well, what do you do and how can you help me? So each slide kind of gives you a little bit of information about what I could do, but to support them. But you could use this to create different scenes. And I'm going to age myself for when Bitmoji started. It started as bit strips way back in the day on Facebook. And you could actually star in cartoons with your friends, and you could make scenes. So this is a great way, kind of like the whole Bitmoji classroom, but these are actually scenes you've created to explain content or explain expectations. So I definitely think that creating a cartoon scene, and if you do it in Google Slides, each scene is separate. They can watch it. It's like a little mini movie in Google Slides. So that is idea number 9, using cartoon scenes. All right. The next one is really leveling up using your Bitmoji, and that is to create animated GIFs. And if you're not familiar with Tall Tweets is a web-based platform that lets you take a slide presentation and it will turn it into an animated GIF. And this is super simple right here. It's literally two different images where I alternated the text. I alternated the colors in the background, and I alternated the hand movement and the facial expressions. Two different images. I duplicated it multiple times. Used tall tweets to turn it into an animated GIF. And when I did that, I get this smiling Genmoji effect here that I can put in a presentation or on a website, which is really, really cool. So if you haven't tried animated GIFs, check out Tall Tweets. It is a really cool tool to turn them into an animated GIF. So there we go. 10 ideas. Examples that I had of ways I like to use Bitmoji. But of course, there's more. I'd like to mention that if you are using Canva, and I talked about this yesterday and showed you how you do this, inside of Canva, you can link your Bitmoji. So that means if you're doing designs in Canva, you can easily drag and drop your Bitmoji in there to jazz up your design. So that's a little bonus tip. If you're using Canva, you can integrate and connect your Bitmoji. In addition to that, if you're not using Canva, you should check it out, because in Canva, you can register for a free Canva education account. It's an upgrade to get like the pro version of Canva for free. So definitely check out the video from yesterday. I kind of talked through that and what you need to do. So check out yesterday's edition of the 10 Ideas series all about Canva. All right, another bonus here is if you've leveled up, inside of Snapchat, which I don't use Snapchat for really anything except for the fact that I want to join my Friendmojis. I see that Mariana did that yesterday. You connected your Bitmoji yesterday. Fantastic. Awesome. So these right here were created. This is an animated GIF. That's why it's still going. And this was just a video that I created, and that's using the power of Snapchat. So I use Snapchat for two reasons. One, you can have Friendmojis. And if you need to know more about Friendmojis, that's going to be on my Bitmojis page. I'm going to share that link. I also use it for the animation, because you can use the filter to get dancing or other activities. There's been yoga, sweeping, sleeping, different ones. And you can bring them in and you can make these cool 3D animations, which is a lot of fun. And here's one more level up. Tech Tips 411. I'm so excited you're here to learn about tools to engage your learners. So that was created actually using Google Slides so that I could get it to get my Genmoji to talk. And in doing that, it's just a few slides, changing it out. And I screen recorded to get the audio. And voila, I've got a talking movie, exactly what I wanted to say. So that's, if you really want to level up, you can do that as well. So I only highlighted 10 particular ones. And I just realized I remissed putting in one of my favorites, which is to add your Bitmoji to a t-shirt. One of my media specialists created me a Genmoji shirt. And I have this, I'm going to have to post the link because it's awesome. I need to get some more Genmoji shirts, but it's pretty cool. But here's even more. So I gave you 10 ideas, but let's check this out. I've got way more for you to explore in terms of ways you can use your Bitmoji to engage your learners, especially in this virtual environment. So there we go. That was it. 10 ideas for Bitmoji to engage your learners, plus a couple of bonus tips there. So this was the last of my 10 ideas series. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, drop them in the chat. I am pondering about what my next series is going to be. I'd love in the chat, what are some things you'd like for me to share with you all? What are some other tools you'd like for me to talk about? Ideas you'd like for me to share? I'm looking to come up with some the next series of videos of what that's going to look like for some live streams. But in the meantime, please check out techtips411.com. There are a ton of resources on there that you can explore. Google, Microsoft, all things in there. If you click on the resources tab, you can just explore for resources. If you haven't already done so, please sign up for my Tech Tips 411 email so that you can get the latest and greatest EdTech tips that I'm sharing with you. And you'll also be notified of any upcoming streaming events that are going to be coming on. Those of you tuning into YouTube, thank you so much. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go ahead and give it a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when my future sessions are going to be shared. And In addition to that, I got so many clicks here, so many clicks in the home stretch. Thanks for those of you that are tuning in live via Facebook. If you haven't already found my Facebook page, check out Tech Tips 411. I also share there as well. And I've also got a new podcast. So I'm taking what I'm doing here and turning it into an audio podcast. So if you want to walk and learn, you can do that. So please check out the podcast. It is available on Spotify and Anchor and other platforms that you might be tuning into. And last but not least, please go ahead and check out my mobile app so you can get all the best tips and tricks and resources in the palm of your hand. Thank you so much. I appreciate you tuning in. For those of you that join me live, thanks so much. If you are tuning in from the future and you're watching it now, thank you guys so much. I've really enjoyed this 10 ideas. Thank you so much, guys. It was fun to join live. Awesome. I'm glad that you got to join live for one of these. Like I said, drop in the chat, in the comments. Do you have any ideas of things you'd like to see me cover? Because I'm thinking about what's going to be coming next. I do enjoy doing these live. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in, and I will see you on the next one. Have an awesome weekend. See you soon.